Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Combo Breaker 99. I'm back with another video. All right, y'all. So I recently watched this Zhang Weili interview that one of my subscribers sent to me. Shout out to High Five. He sent this to me, and a few other people asked me about this interview, and they wanted to know my thoughts on some of the things that Zhang Weili was discussing. And Zhang Weili, as y'all know, she discussed the numerous topics, and the actual interview was split up. It was split up into segments, so I only got a chance to watch the first two segments because that's all was out. And she talked about getting the belt, her life outside of MMA, before MMA. But of course, the main topic she spoke on was losing the title to Rose Namajunas, and she kind of broke it down. You know how she felt that night, how she went down physically that night. She talked about that. The sleepless nights, being up like 20 hours, and still trying to process it. Still trying to process the whole thing. Like, did this really happen to me? And she also talked about having to come to terms with the loss. Even when she went back home, she said she could still feel that pain. It was like she thought when she was here, she was just feeling that, but if she went home, she would feel better, but it was still following her because, of course, it's you. It's you that has to come to terms with that. And now that she said she has, she got rid of that resentment. I know the one thing that stood out that some people were asking me about was the fact that Zhang Weili said that she accepts Rose as the champion, but she also respects her as a god. She used those words. She said, I have to accept Rose as the champion. She has to respect her as a god. She's the true champ, like a god now. And my opinion on that, first off, as far as resentment, okay, I agree with that. You have to, get rid of that resentment, accept the loss, accept that person was better than you. But how the term was used to describe Rose as the champion now, I'm kind of on the fence on whether Zhang Wei Li is ready for the fight now with the champion. Because to me, for Zhang Wei Li, if you think of a person that in that way, if you think of them as a god now, or you admire them as a god, it's almost like you're giving them that mental edge, which I'll talk more on here in a minute. But first, using that term God uh, and I thought universally the term means higher power. Someone that is near perfection or someone that is perfection. So I think for Zhang Wei Li coming off resentment, you know, she's just coming off resentment, just accepting the loss. I don't think she would be ready to take on somebody that you hold to that high term. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going in there facing somebody that you think that highly of, I don't think you would be ready for that fight mentally. Because even if you're not religious, to me, God, that's a word that means you're showing that person the ultimate respect, the ultimate title they can be given, and you're not on that level. In my opinion, that's kind of how you're putting. You say you have to admire them, almost like you have to bow down to them now. You know, I think you're supposed to show some respect that night, of course, and moving forward throughout their history. You have to show that person respect that they were better and that you admire their craft and their dedication. But taking it there kind of shows another level of defeat to me, or humbleness. I don't know. I don't know. Depends on how you look at it. I just think you have to accept defeat, accept what happened, and understand what you did wrong so you can do better, but also understand what they did better that night. Just understand that they were better that night, but you can still come back and do your thing and even beat that person. I've always heard trainers say, and even me growing up, if I had to fight somebody, you have to think of that person as a mortal, that they bleed too, that they can be hurt. That's one thing always people used to always tell me. If it was a bully or whatever, whoever you fighting about to fight, that person across from you, you know, don't give them that mental edge. Understand that, look, they can bleed just like you, they can hurt just like you. So whatever they say to you that makes it seem like they're superior, nah, you train just as hard. You train just as hard. You can look them in the eye the same way they're looking at you in the eye, or you can talk the same trash that they talk to you. You just have to know how to understand that person and their abilities is not superior to you. Certain words to me could take that person's mental to another level. That's why I say, if you over respect the person by using terms like, oh, you have to admire that person like a god, that's going to kind of take them to another level almost, whether you like it or not, whether you see it that way or not, especially with that term. And some people might feel overseas, in other countries, that the term God is kind of similar to king, which makes sense. But again, even if you use that term king, Well, king is a little bit more lenient because yeah, once you get knocked off the throne, that person is king, and you can just climb back up to the mountaintop, dethrone that king, and boom, you got the crown again. But again, to me, when you hear that term God, whether you thinking mythological, mythology, whether you thinking biblical, you always think of that term God as like the ultimate being. And maybe I'm thinking a little bit too much, but it just seems that way whenever you're talking about another fighter that believes just like you and has lost before, and you take it there like, okay, I no longer resent this person. I'm accepting them as a champion. I admire them like a god. I don't hear too many people talk like that. I just hear some people say, okay, that person beat me. They're the best for now, but I'll be back. I know Zhang Weili's talking about being back, but you know what I mean. There's still a level of respect there that you have to show, of course. But to me, I think there's levels of respect and disrespect that have to be shown in fighting. And when I say disrespect, I don't mean you have to be talking about that person's mom or pushing them or spitting on them or trying to grab their belt and throw it down, things like that. Nothing like that. The respect that you show, respect in the fashion that you appreciate what your opponent is capable of doing and has done, and disrespect in the way that they won't do the same to you. So what you've seen them do in the past, you have to disrespect that and say, "Oh no, you won't be able to knock me out. Like you don't have that power, you don't have that skill. I can come in there and beat you." That's the level of disrespect that you have to show. It's like a lion and a cobra. A lion respects the cobra because of its ability to kill it with its quick strike and that venom. And for the most part, it's going to stay out of its way. If you see that hood come up, the lion is going to just step aside and just keep on walking, just stay out of its way. But if the cobra was to corner him or threaten his pride, he'll push all that aside and say, "Look, I don't care what you're capable of. I'm here to kill. I got to take you down because you're in my space. I don't care what you're capable of. I'm going to take you down." So I think there just has to be a level of respect where it's still eye to eye, and your capabilities are just as effective as your opponent. It's all about the right moves and execution when you get to this level. But again, it's probably just a choice of words too. God could mean again like seen as a king-like term, and in that fashion, that's more understandable. Maybe she just means like I admire her because she dethroned me. She has the crown now. King sits on top until another comes along, dethrones you. Then you have to show that king respect until somebody comes back and maybe takes that crown again. I just think to me that term God just seems so final. I know it's her way of showing she's humble and she's ready to move on, but she has to remember that Rose has been taken out too. Rose has been slammed on her neck and put out in 2 rounds. And, I'm sure she wasn't admiring Andrade in the same way. I'm sure she wasn't admiring Andrade in the same way. I'm sure she was probably like, I got to get back at this person. I got to turn that kill switch on. She went back in there and did the work she needed to avoid it. Of course, it was a brutal second fight for Namajunas and the Andrade fight, but she went back in there and showed that level of disrespect. She even showed a level of disrespect to Zhang Weili when they fought. I think again, Weili just has to give respect for this moment, but then separate that from what she could do to Rose next time. I think that's all it is. I think she just has to really separate that resentment, but still understand that, look, I can admire what she does, but she's not going to do that to me. You know what I mean? She has to do everything in her power to make sure she doesn't do that to her. I think Weili, from hearing this interview so far, I think she is finally accepting it. I mean, she just, I know she wants to touch that crown again, but I think she really has to really, really, really come to terms with this loss and just kind of, you know, not take it to that level of just saying, "Oh, I have to admire this person," but just go back and just work on her. And I think that was something that they talked about in this interview too. She never really got a chance to go back and look at her mistakes. Like she said, they didn't reflect, rewind, and they didn't review. Those three things, they were moving so fast that after wins like over Joanna, they never really reflected. They never went back to rewind and review. And those are things you got to do to see, okay, what are we doing wrong? What are we getting too comfortable at? Why are we too comfortable here? What do we need to change? What do we need to prepare for the future? And I think that's why she lost in the fashion that she did, because if you go back and look at the mistakes she made in the Rose fight, she's made that mistake a few times in the Joanna fight, and even some, even some other past fights. You know what I mean? So when you move so fast, sometimes it's just like, oh, we're gonna keep going, we're gonna keep going. There's no time to look back, and you're not supposed to look back with certain things. But when it comes to the fight game, I mean, to perfect your craft, you have to go back and look at what you did right and what you did wrong the last few times. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that, man. Like I said, whichever comes out first, I probably put the live stream out first, so we can just kind of talk about it. But yeah, I just kind of want to go back and give you my thoughts, as a whole in this video. Um, yeah, my final thoughts though, I think that, yeah, it's a little overboard using that term. And like I said, even though I know some people, in China, Asia, they might not see God as the same way, but of course, people like Rose, they'll see it as a higher thing. So it will kind of maybe swell up her head a little bit. And I know for people here and other people that do think of God as a high being, we think that, oh, you're giving her the ultimate respect now, so where is your mind for real? So I think for Zhang Weili, it's just about accepting what happened that night, knowing that she messed up and she's not perfect, and that person across from her just did their homework on her. That's all it comes down to. Know that she messed up that night. It was her making the mistake, and she gave the person across from her that advantage. So if she corrects her mistakes next time, boom, she could probably take it there and get the belt back. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got on this. So let me know in the comment section what y'all think. I'll put the link in the description if y'all haven't seen the interview. It's Scarlett Zhang. She does this show called My Bronze Age with some MMA fighters. And yeah, she was just covering Zhang Wei this go round. And it's chopped up into segments, and it cut off right at a good point where she was talking about some of her old jobs, Zhang Weili. And yeah, got up to the second part and it cut off right there. And it was getting good. So I'm gonna still go back and watch some more of these because it is pretty interesting just hearing some of the things that she was doing before she was in the MMA and then how she got into it too. So yeah, check it out, guys, and let me know in the comment section what y'all think. Is she giving Rose the mental edge, or is she really just finding a way to get rid of the resentment? Has she accepted the defeat? What do y'all think? Combo Breaker 99. I'm out. Subscribe. Peace.